All right, everybody, so today's lab, we're gonna take a look at Ohm's Law. All right, we talked about Ohm's Law earlier in the week and kind of how there's this relationship between resistance, voltage, and current. If we know 2 out of the 3, we can solve for the other one. Okay, and we're gonna kind of look at that in a real sense today and not just necessarily with word problems. Okay, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna look at 6 different components. Okay, we're gonna look at 6 different components today, and we're gonna measure we're gonna try to figure out the current for all of them today. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through. We're gonna kind of measure. We're gonna measure our voltage. We're gonna measure our resistance of those 6 different components and kind of what they'll be hooked up to. And then with those numbers, we'll be able to figure out what our amperage or what our current is. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is you guys are going to create a chart that looks like this. All right, now that we have created our chart, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through and we're gonna figure out the voltage and we're gonna figure out the resistance of all 6 components. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to actually use 2 sources of voltage for today's lab. Okay, the lamp, motor, and LED are all gonna be hooked up to the same voltage. The 4.7K resistor, the 10K resistor, and the 1K resistor are all going to be hooked up to the same voltage. Okay, so we're gonna measure the voltage first for the lamp, motor, and LED, and then we'll measure the voltage for the set of resistors. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook up the lamp, LED, and motor. We're gonna run the voltage off of this battery pack here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test for voltage. Remember, since it's batteries, we gotta test DC voltage. Right, that is our multimeter there. All right, so we need to get a little bit more specific if we can. Probably get more specific than that. Right there. All right, so our voltage for the lamp, LED, and motor is all gonna be 6.331 volts. 6.31 volts. All right, so go ahead and write that down for your measured voltage for lamp, motor, and LED. Okay, the voltage for the resistors, we are going to measure actually in AC today. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to get our voltage for those. Okay, start at 600. All right, let's try to get more specific. So the voltage for your set of resistors is going to be 13.6 volts. Okay, so that the measured voltage for all 3 resistors will be 13.6 volts. Okay, so go ahead and get that down. Now we're gonna measure the actual resistance. Okay, so we're gonna measure the resistance of each one. All right, so remember resistance, we measure in ohms. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure the resistance of the lamp. Here we go. All right, so our resistance is 0.014 ohms. So remember, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that 0.014 and you are going to move the decimal point because you've gotta compensate for the fact that it's in K. So that means we gotta move it, we gotta move it 3. We've got to move it over 3. So what we're going to get is we're actually going to get 13 ohms of resistance. Okay, I know it's kind of going back and forth there between 13 and 14, but we're going to be getting 13 ohms of resistance. If you put 14, that works too. Okay, so for the lamp, the measured resistance is 13 or 14 ohms. All right, let's go ahead and do the LED. Okay, so for the LED, we are looking at 100.4 K ohms. So remember, we're going to take that 100.4 and we are going to move it 3 decimal points. Okay, we're going to move it 3 decimal points. So it should come out to 101,400 K ohms. Okay, that's our 101,400 ohms. Okay, that's what that should come out to. All right. Okay, next we're going to measure the resistance of our motor. All right, so it looks like our motor, we are getting 0.07 K ohms. So once again, we're gonna move that decimal point over 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. So we're looking at 70 K, we're looking at 70 ohms of resistance. All right, let's move into our resistors. Okay, we're gonna measure the resistance of our resistors. So we wanna try to get the actual resistance level. So this one is the 4.7K resistor. All right, let's see just how close we are to that. And we're getting 4.65K resistance. Once again, remember to move the decimal point 3 spots. Okay, let's measure the 1K. 0.986 ohms of resistance. So remember, move your decimal point. And then let's measure the 10K. The actual value of the 10K is 9.8 K ohms of resistance. And remember to move your decimal point there. Okay. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we are actually going to, you guys are going to take this time, you guys are going to solve the equation. You guys are going to solve for what the calculated current is. Okay, you're going to solve for what the calculated current is. And while you guys do that, I'm going to set up a couple of the different circuits and we're going to measure them. All right, so what we're gonna have to do is we're actually not gonna be able to do the AC ones because for some reason none of my multimeters are working on measuring AC current. So we're gonna look at the DC ones today, as far as actually measured ones. So where we're gonna do that is I have my multimeter plugged within series of our lamp. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna measure, and we are getting 128.2 milliamps of 128 milliamps of amperage from the battery to the lamp back to the battery. Okay, so that means our current is 128 milliamps. All right, I know that might be hard to see because there's a little bit of glare, but there you go, 128 milliamps. All right, next let's look at the LED. Okay, the current from the LED is 4.5 milliamps. We'll go with that, 4.5 milliamps. Okay, and I'll show you guys how to convert that as well. Okay, 4.5 milliamps, and then let's look at the current from our motor. Okay, and then the current from our motor is, try not to touch it. Keeps dropping. We're gonna say around 40 milliamps. Okay, we're gonna say around 40 milliamps on the current from the motor. Okay. Yep. So around 40 milliamps on the current from the motor. All right. So yeah, that is gonna give us a pretty good that. So Ohm's law is it exact? Probably not. But we are pretty freaking close with the actual measurement and then our calculated measurement. So this lab just meant to give you an idea kind of Ohm's law, kind of the relationship between the two, and how if we know two of them, we can figure out the third one without having to test for it, which is kind of nice. Okay, it's kind of nice, and then just kind of see it on a real life example, super helpful. I'm sorry I was not able to get the AC current working. I'm not sure why. I'm gonna have to kind of take a look at that and figure out what was going on there. But yeah, if there's any questions, please feel free to let me know. If not, have a good day, guys.